Okay, I want you to picture something. Imagine the world right after the dinosaurs were wiped out. The asteroid just hit, the titans are gone, and for millions of years, the planet is basically a giant sweltering greenhouse. In this brand new world, a completely different kind of giant rose up to take charge. And no, forget about mammals for a minute, because this was the age of the snake. So, to really get a grip on this lost world, we're going to take a journey through a 60 million year long dynasty. First, we'll check out the world after the dinosaurs and see how it set the stage for these giants. Then, we're going to meet the two undisputed rulers of this era, a queen named Titanoboa and a new king called Vasuki Indicus. After that, we'll jump over to ancient Australia to meet the last of their kind. And finally, we'll figure out why their massive empire eventually crumbled. All right, so how in the world did these giant snakes even happen? Well, it all kicks off with a global catastrophe and a massive, massive power vacuum. I mean, that's the ultimate question, isn't it? When the most dominant creatures on the entire planet just vanish, who steps up to take over? For millions of years, the answer wasn't some mammal with fur. Nope, it was a reptile with scales. The secret ingredient here was the climate. The whole world back then was just sweltering, like a global steam room. And this intense heat was the perfect incubator for cold-blooded reptiles. See, for critters like snakes, warmer temperatures basically supercharge their metabolism, letting them grow to sizes that are, well, just totally impossible in the cooler world we have today. Now, these snakes didn't just pop up out of nowhere. They were from this ancient family of survivors that had spent 100 million years literally living in the shadows of dinosaurs, eating their eggs, maybe even some of their young. When that asteroid hit, boom, their moment arrived. They spread all across the old southern supercontinent of Gondwana, totally poised to become the new top dogs of the world. And this new, hot world gave rise to our very first true giant, the one that really set the standard for terror in those ancient rainforests, Titanoboa. Just try to wrap your head around that number for a second. 40 feet. That is as long as a school bus. This wasn't just a snake. It was a living, breathing landmark sliding its way through the prehistoric swamps of what is now Colombia. And its weight? 2,500 pounds. That's as heavy as a small car. The sheer mass of this thing is just staggering. It didn't just live in its environment, it completely commanded it through pure overwhelming size. Titanoboa was the absolute, undisputed queen of her domain. She was a master of stealth, just waiting silently under the surface of those murky rivers. She didn't have to chase anything. She would just lunge, and her grip was inescapable, swallowing giant lungfish and crocodiles whole. For millions of years, nothing could even touch her. But you know how it goes. Every reign gets challenged. So let's fast forward about 13 million years, and on the other side of the world, in ancient India, a new and honestly even more terrifying contender for the throne shows up. Scientists gave it a name that just perfectly captured its terrifying majesty, Vasuki. That's after the colossal serpent king you see coiled around the neck of the deity Shiva in Hindu mythology. Yeah, a name like that is truly reserved for a king. 50 feet. Look, if Titanoboa was the length of a school bus, Vasuki was longer than a semi-trailer truck. It officially dethroned Titanoboa as the largest snake we've ever found, totally pushing the limits of what we even thought was possible for these creatures. So, how did these two titans really stack up? Well, Vasuki was longer, heavier, and it preferred to hunt on land, even though it could go in the water. But the most chilling difference, it's right there at the bottom, its hunting style. Titanoboa was a constrictor. Vasuki was something way, way more brutal. Okay, this is straight up nightmare fuel. Unlike any giant constrictor we have today, Vasuki's immense size meant it probably couldn't swallow its huge prey. We're talking crocodiles, maybe even early whales, all in one go. Instead, the evidence suggests it used its incredibly powerful jaws and terrifying teeth to literally tear its victims apart, eating them alive. A truly fearsome apex predator. But the dynasty didn't end there. Nope, this family of giants kept going, and their last great stand happened much more recently, on the continent of Australia, where they would meet a brand new and really formidable adversary, us. Now, okay, they weren't 50-foot behemoths like Vasuki, but snakes like Yerlinger and Wanambi were still terrifyingly large. I mean, a 20-foot snake is an incredibly formidable predator, more than capable of hunting kangaroos, wallabies, and pretty much any other creature that wandered a little too close to its waterhole. And this is where science and culture just intersect so beautifully. These giant snakes actually coexisted with the first Aboriginal Australians for thousands of years. And it's widely believed that encounters with these real-life giants inspired one of the most powerful creation stories on Earth, the legend of the rainbow serpent, a being that shaped the very land itself. But even giants fall. After a reign of nearly 60 million years, the time of the great snakes was finally coming to an end. So why did they vanish? The giants' downfall was really caused by a devastating one-two punch. First, the planet itself just turned against them. The world started to cool down, shrinking those hot tropical environments these cold-blooded titans desperately needed to survive. And then, a new kind of clever, tool-wielding primate showed up on the scene: humans. We, who once feared these serpents, eventually became the apex predator that would hunt the last of them into extinction. This timeline really puts their incredible reign into perspective. It all started 16 million years ago with Titanoboa, and a world wiped clean of dinosaurs. 13 million years later, the even bigger Vasuki claimed the throne. And the dynasty only truly ended a mere 50,000 years ago, when the last giant, Wanami, was finally hunted to extinction. It was an empire that lasted for almost 60 million years. Their story is just this powerful reminder that being on top is always temporary. These snakes inherited a world from the dinosaurs and ruled it for an absolutely astonishing length of time, only to be replaced themselves. It kind of leaves you wondering, as our world changes once again, whose reign is ending now, and what kind of giants will rule the future?